Always remember, someone's effort is the reflection of their interest in you. What is up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I'm one of your co-hosts, Willie Blake. I'm here with my other co-host, Mr. Ian Sturmer, and our guest, who's not really a guest, the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. John Kovacs Jr. And today we're jumping into another great book. Not a different one, if you've listened to the last couple episodes, but the same one by Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone. And if you watched our previous episodes, the first one, we talked a lot about the making sure you're at places, making sure that you are not just sitting there with a brown paper bag, just eating by yourself, but actually you're out there connecting. The last episode we did was about talking about the things not to do when it comes to connecting. It's about the how to destroy relationships and how to destroy connections. And today we're going to go into the tips and the tricks of actually staying connected, actually building and multiplying the relationships that we have and the ones that are going to come. So without further ado, let's just jump into this. We'll do it this way, top tip right off the head of just your either favorite or what you've seen in the world, just the top thing that you need to connect. For me, remembering the name. You got to remember their name. It's the most important word to them, whether they like it or not, but it's the most important word to them. And if you can remember their name, then you're solid. And then the second is remembering the color. But first, you got to remember the first name, and it just brings a lot of trust and a lot of credibility. Ian, John, what about you two?
Okay. In the green room before, we were kind of talking about the digital side of things and how to stay connected when you've got hundreds or thousands of online connections. So for me, the first one is LinkedIn and Facebook. Look at the birthdays and special events happening with people. They pop up, send a quick message, a happy birthday, congratulations on a work anniversary, new job, those things. Make sure that you're taking a couple minutes every day to look at those and send a quick personalized message. So at least twice a year, birthday and job anniversary, you're reaching out to somebody.
I love that tip. And on kind of like a piggyback off of yours, Ian, mine is if you think it, say it. Now that could get some of you in trouble, but for those who are purely minded, if you think it, say it. I have found the best tip to developing, growing, maintaining, and even enhancing my relationships and connections has been telling people what's on my mind. And whether it's, something that I need to rant about and I find the right person to rant to so that they can talk me off the ledge or help me or literally if things pop up in my mind, I've been looking at this business card on my desk for weeks now. And I finally just got up and I said, hey, I've been looking at your business card for weeks. Let's connect. And that person now wants to buy me virtual coffee and grab a lunch and hang out on Zoom and have a good conversation. And so it's powerful stuff, man. Just say it if you can say it, and it'll take your relationships in a really, really far, far, far place from where you thought it would be. And for those non-existent relationships, those can be better connections.
Amen to that.
Right.
Like you mentioned in the green room, Ian, that one other thing we're talking about was the digital side of it. It was talking about in a world in which it is so easy to connect with somebody that isn't your neighbor, like not walking across the street, but literally with this device we call a phone in our hands and the laptops that we have, it is so easy to connect with people and to build relationships. Yet we still feel alone. We have increased numbers of depression, of anxiety whenever we go into social settings. Like, these are statistics that are out there that it's like increasing with this amazing age of technology, yet we feel so alone and so just not connected. Like, why? I guess that we'll continue the conversation there. Just like, why is it that way?
I'll jump in, and this is a topic that I've been really thinking about a lot lately because I live in a really friendly neighborhood, but you would think the neighborhood would be the first place to meet your neighbors and to be friendly and have friends and so forth. And I'll tell you what, it's hard to find people in my neighborhood. Like, I feel like if you walk down the street, everyone heads inside. Like, like I don't understand what's going on. Maybe it's because I smell. I don't know. But it's very, very interesting how the digital world was meant to connect us. They call it social media for a reason, but unless you're actually actively being social, meaning commenting, following up, highlighting, rather than just scrolling and liking, you've fallen into this never ending trap of just being someone who thinks they're engaging, but all you're doing is self-serving. You're liking, you're consuming, right? But if you're contributing, then you really are creating relationships online. I have friends on TikTok that I've never met in person, but people who have followed my content since the beginning. And when I go a couple months without posting too much on TikTok, they reach out to me because they're concerned. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize I had that effect on people. And so it really is an interesting concept that we should be better connected, even with the digital age that we're in. And I could go on and on and on about this, but I definitely want to give you guys an opportunity to share. But I think that it starts with, figuring out where your main channels of communication are. That'll be a great place to start. And then that's where you maintain those relationships. So some of us are we want to create content, and therefore we get stressed out about how many different platforms we need to post to. But if you truly want to maintain relationships and connections, think about that. Think about being social on social media rather than just like and scroll.
So you're saying I have to actually work at this?
Yes.
Dang it.
They don't come just by sitting on the couch.
Yeah. So being the old guy here, I used to watch TV or sit in my room and listen to records growing up as a kid. And I would consume this media, and I would feel like I got to know this actor, this character, this musician. And, I really felt like I knew him. But it was a one-way. I just saw things from them. They had no idea who I am. They still don't. They don't care who I am. It was entirely a one-way thing. And when I look at social media, how often do I do that same thing? How often do I watch someone? I click on a like, which is not even the equivalent of waving as you drive down the street at somebody. It's a lower level than that. We follow someone on social media, but we don't engage. And even with friends, I catch myself doing that. Sure, I hit a like, their pages come up, their posts, their videos. But if I don't take time to make the engagement go from me to them, there's no real engagement any more than Captain Kirk knows who I am from me watching every Star Trek episode. It doesn't work just to watch someone. You got to engage to them and have them engage back to you, just like you do in real life. And I think that's a catch with social media, that we think we can scroll and like, or maybe even just put cool in the video or in the comment or something. But if you don't start a conversation, you don't make it on a personal level beyond just something that they said, you can't maintain a relationship. You've got to really put forth the effort, the same as if you were talking to someone walking down the street. Otherwise, you're just watching somebody on TV, and that doesn't work for relationships.
Yeah. We always love to start off these episodes with like a quote, and there was a quote that came up that I want to share because it goes into, just like you were talking about, Ian, more of just like the how, like the actual, like in our minds, we can talk about the theory, we can talk about like the emotions behind it and why it's important. But for people who are so just like literally minded, just like, what does that even mean? If they need that step by step, what does it mean? So the quote that came up was this. It's from this dude named Brandon Jenner. It says, we can bring positive energy into our daily lives by smiling more, talking to strangers in line, replacing handshakes with hugs, and calling our friends just to tell them that we love them. And I love that because it goes into the practical thing. How the heck do we go out there and start connecting and building more? Well, when you walk into a room, it's reaching your hand out and saying, hey, I'm Willie Blake. What's your name? It's as you're walking down the street, having a smile. It's being able to friends that you haven't seen in a while, instead of going for that like awkward handshake. No, you go for a hug, right? Like connectors give hugs. And like I love the practical side of it, of how do we actually do it? And in my head, I'm like, always have a smile on your face. People are attracted to smiles. Always be willing to extend the hand. And if you've already met before, give a hug. Ask them how their day is going. Ask them what projects that they're working on. And never leave without making sure that they got a ride home, right? Just be like, hey, did you got a ride home? And even if they drove there, right? It's just like, hey, did you got a ride home? Because it's just like those nice gestures that truly build that trust and relationship.
I love that. I was just thinking about like when I meet people digitally, reaching out to them in a social way, and how I would extend that hug. And I literally was thinking about sending a hug emoji and said, since I can't hug you in person today, I wanted to send you this. And what a great conversation starter, right? It definitely gets your attention and it makes you feel good, but also think like, oh wow, that was really interesting. But I love that. And a lot of people get stressed out. They without even knowing, they try to compartmentalize being social online, and then they go into this like, I need to be a content creator, or I need to be strategic about how I say this and what I say is. But on the contrary, there are people who don't think about it and they get in trouble a lot, or they're really annoying, or they really stir the pot. Okay, so there's a difference, but let's just go into this from an angle of positivity, because there's a lot that we could go into, but I think it's great to be different. And I think it's good to approach a social media conversation as if you would, like Willie just described, like a really good personal conversation. And that oftentimes gets overlooked because people don't see the catchy headlines or the buzzword or the hook that really captures them or captivates them. But don't mind that. I mean, I'm not a social media creator here, influencer, trying to give you bad advice. I'm just telling you, like, if you truly want connections, you'll build them as you focus on the friendships you're seeking. It's kind of like, if you guys think about it, I'm going to put this book down. It's a physical move here. I had my book in front of me because I had something I wanted to talk about. But now I'm like, if you think about it, our social media could be and can be, and it should be a manifestation. It should be a platform for taking your thoughts and your words and putting them into the universe. And if you think about that, it's almost like anytime I post, I could put out a really cool idea as a manifestation of things I'm trying to surround myself with. Because if you think about it, how much negativity is there in the world? You go on social media and the first thing that infiltrate your mind is politics or the war or crazy things happening on in the world. And not that those are things that need to be ignored, but those are things that can definitely set your day and your connections and your relationships up for, maybe not the greatest success. Because while we always talk about how, find similar interests, and we immediately go to the taboo or the hard topics like, talk about oil, like oil is causing those gas prices to go up, right? Like there's so many things that could take us down these slippery slopes that really don't bind us together. But if you think about the manifestations, for example, what we teach at Champion Circle, like this just came to my mind, guys. So I was just kind of going off of on this, but I'll wrap it up by saying, what do we put out there in the world? Well, what we should be putting out there in the world is our goals, our ideas, what we think other people will be like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's something I want to align myself with. And you start manifesting through social media or through a digital world. I think that's powerful stuff. And it can be almost as good as writing it down in your journals, almost, because writing things physically down is so much better. It is proven. It is in this crazy self-help world of one of the best steps to accomplishing things, but it could almost be as effective because it is transferring a thought and allowing others to contribute, to respond. And that is an interesting place for connection building. I don't know. I'm still stuck on this digital stuff, but I truly think that there's ways that we can shift our mindset from, I need to strategically post so that I can get more clients or more people to follow me on social media, rather than thinking that, why don't we just treat it like the scenario that Willie said, or like, you're heading to a campfire where you're going to exchange stories and share awesome, facts or tell people what you're interested in. There's so much more that you could be doing with it than we truly are.
Love that. And I have another idea. So I've had an idea in the back of my mind for years now. And when I say this, I want to say it in a positive way and not in a stereotyping way. But I always wanted to do a class on how to network like a woman. And women, again, I mean, overgeneralizing here, but they can walk up and say, "Oh, those are really cute shoes. Thank you." And they have a short conversation about where they bought them, whatever. And that's wonderful. I love that because they have the ability to build a quick connection on something irrelevant to anything else they're talking about. As men, we tend to jump into, not to put you on the spot, John, but, what project are you working on? I think it was Willie that said that, right? We jump into things like that rather than, hey, I love that tie. When did you get that pen? Whatever it is. We don't build up a simple, polite connection with somebody first. We tend to jump into whatever topic we're on. There was a comedian I caught a clip of a little while ago. He said, yeah, men and women think differently. He said, one of our friends just had her divorce, and I went out golfing with the guy for the first time I'd seen him in a couple months since the divorce. So after I golfed with him, excuse me, my wife said, well, how is he doing? I don't know. How's the divorce? It didn't come up. You were golfing for 4 hours and didn't come up? No, didn't come up. How often do we not take time to talk about the simple things, the actual connections we have, and we jump into, it's got to be about the business. It's got to be about this project. It's got to be about that thing. Instead of just having a conversation with somebody, just pointing out the simple things. Don't make it too complicated. Just be simple.
Yeah. Before you jump in, Willie, I wanted to just piggyback off of what Ian said. Really cool, because my background is I started in the public relations world. And if you know anything about the public relations world, it is completely run by women. It is such a women-dominated industry, and it's just because they're better. They are so good at the details, at gathering the facts, at researching, and so many other things. And it just is, it's 98% that. And I pride myself on all the networking and professional skills that I learned early on in my career. I hand it to women because they truly raised me in a professional environment to be as good as you just suggested and what you said earlier, Willie. So I to that point, I don't want to labor on that a little longer, but I just wanted to add, like, yeah, I think it's great. Like, they are the masters of finding similarities in people and striking up good quality conversation. And some of you out there might debate with us and say, well, that's just surface level talk. That's just, I don't want small talk. I want deep talk. Well, Keith Ferrazzi teaches this in How to Never Eat Alone. You gotta get through some of the surface talk to get to the depth. And that's why we build relationships. That's why it takes a minute. But anyways, pass back to you, Willie.
Freaking, like, that's exactly where I wanted to take it to.
Cool.
That, see, we just all good here. One, women are awesome. That's just like undeniable. And two, so important what John just said, because it is through the small talk that we get to the deep talk.
Yeah.
I remember I remember several years ago in that stage when I was doing that, where I was like, small talk kind of is stupid. Like, I just don't like having that small talk. I want to go deep in the conversations. I want to get to know the people at a very personal level so that we can build the trust, because I've seen that. I've seen, like, the best trust comes and the best connection comes from the deep of the conversations that you have. But ain't nobody going to tell you their problems on day one. Like, can you imagine going on a first date with somebody and then instead of just having like those icebreaker questions, more just go into, so what's the biggest challenge that you face in your life? Do you have a STD or anything going on with you? Or it's like, instead of like your favorite food, what's your most embarrassing moment? Right? Those are horrid questions to ask on the very first date. Sadly, there are some people out there who do that. But you do the icebreakers. You do the surface level questions so that you can get a perspective on who they are, and you get the conversation going. And then if you start vibing with each other, then you go a little bit deeper and you start building that trust. In a world that we live today where it seems like trust is so hard to come by, we aren't willing to share our greatest weaknesses, because if we do, we're vulnerable to everybody. And if we're vulnerable to everybody, well, then it's not really that special. And how can we protect ourselves if the wolves out there amongst the sheep are going to come and attack us, but we just don't know who they are? So talking about like the surface level questions, talking about those topics, talking about the things where it's just like, what do you like to do? Like, just for fun, your free time, you're not working at business. What do you like to do? What things are you passionate about? What's your story? And one of my favorite questions is, if you had no limit on time, money, resources, connections, and just didn't care what anyone thought about you, what would you want to do? Surface level questions don't have to be the mundane ones of, hey, how are you? Hey, what did you get your degree in? Hey, what do you do for work? Like, you can ask better questions that are like more of a gold questions to still be the icebreaker ones that lead to the deep questions.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and say, about halfway through my entrepreneurial career, I started different approaches, and I can tell you what works and what doesn't. And what you just shared, Willie, works awesomely. I mean, just going to the personal level and sharing a genuine curiosity and interest in somebody and or their interests or what they're working on can really bring out the best, because most of us want to talk about ourselves. That's human nature, because we know ourselves better than we know anyone else. And so if you highlight an interest or a part of somebody, it allows them a free stage to share. And that's where the best campfire stories are shared. That's where the best relationships are carried. That's why when we eat with each other, we're not only engaging in one of the most vulnerable, but yet intimate opportunities that mankind can share is sharing a meal and conducting communication with one another. It definitely opens up a lot. And there's so much cool science behind what Keith Ferrazzi teaches in this book. But besides me geeking out and nerding out about that, I love what you said, Willie. And it's vital that you do those things, because let's say you don't. Let's say you're very, very just surface level and you don't quite breach the surface and connections and relationships. Although they will probably feel it and those relationships will never grow, you will definitely feel it. Whether you're empathic or not, it's something that you'll say like, wow, like that conversation really didn't lead to anything that I felt. And so it's important that you start with the surface and then work your way in. I love great questions, but you can change a regular question to make it an incredible question, from a question of, all right, I want you guys to give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down on this question. Ready? The thumbs up or thumbs down question is, so what do you do for work? Or you could ask it this way. Same question, just in a better way. Hey, I'm really curious. I noticed you're wearing this really nice suit. What does a guy got to do in this world to get a suit like that?
Double thumbs up.
Unprompted. I know there are better questions, but the same question, just asked in a different way. And if you start thinking about the things you say and the questions you ask, boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we have another podcast to talk about, because that brings out the, this suit. Oh, I've had this since my wedding. I actually got this at the tailor, or something. Like, they have a story that they immediately want to share about it, or they're proud of it, or they're like, oh, this old thing, man, I just threw this on. I got one at home. You should see it. It's got like Chanel, Shamani, something billionaire brand, whatever. I don't know. Obviously I don't shop those brands, but anyways, long story short is, if you just think about what you're asking and say it differently, in a genuine way, it really can turn the corner on a lot of connections and relationships. And we could, guys, I know we could teach an entire masterclass on this stuff, but I just think it is all about the genuine curiosity and the attraction to hear somebody. And then that connection continues to grow. And you will know if they're interested in you by reciprocity. And reciprocity is if they return the question. And if they don't, you can continue to ask more questions until you realize, is this person I want to continue to talk to, or is this person only going to just answer my questions and never return the favor, right? You can keep an eye on that stuff. All right, I'll get off my high horse. I mean, we got into networking talk and I was like, let's go. But there are signs and signals to relationships on how far you should go. And just like Coach Willie was talking about, because, if a date is going really, really well, whether it be a first, second, third, or 100th date, then that there's mutual connection, and you feel that, you observe that. But if you're oblivious to that and there is literally no reciprocity, then you're going down a rabbit hole. You must like them a lot more than they like you. So just be aware. Self-awareness is a huge piece to all this.
Yeah, been there, done that. But you bring up a couple of really good points. One is, if you don't care about the little things with somebody, they're not going to trust you to care about the big things. So if you can't pay attention to some little things, you're not going to build anything up. They're not going to have that trust. Trust has to start and be built up with it. And the other one I love that you brought up is, if you get a story in there, get them to tell you a story, then you get to know the person. Then you get to build that relationship. Because if they're just saying, yeah, I had a big project, I worked really hard, we made X amount of money, and now I'm tired. Okay, that's not a whole story. Oh, we spent, till 2:00 in the morning we had to order pizza at midnight. There's only one place open, and we got talking, and you get the whole story going on about this project. Now you're getting to know the person. And really that's the goal, is to get to know the person, not to know what they do, not to know you need to know their name, but the goal is not just to know their name. The goal is to know who they really are. And that comes through conversation, through stories they share, through the little things that teach you about who they are in the big side. And Keith Ferrazzi mentions that. He talks about birthdays, and he tries to give people a call on their birthday. And he called one guy that he didn't even know that well, but he got there late in the afternoon, and this guy was like in tears because he had 10 siblings and not one of them had called on his birthday.
Wow.
And because he remembered a simple thing to call, they got into a real conversation and got to know this guy rather than just a superficial call. Or do the little things to build up that trust, and that will open up the big things that we're looking for. But if you jump into the big things, you're just kind of weird. We've all met those guys at the networking groups. Hi, I'm Bill, and do you have an older sister who's single? True story. Met a guy. Opening line was, do you have a sister who's single? Because he was looking.
I imagine him also looking down at his next talking point cards. Is she within the age group of?
It was almost, well, actually, he wasn't even that picky. Made it even creepier.
I know we're short on time, but I wanted to ask you guys: how do you guys remember people's names? Like, just real quick, like not for me, I repeat their name out loud, but I usually put it next. And this is kind of annoying to some people, so you got to read the room. But I put their name with a nickname, like, oh, Hannah, what's your name? Hannah Banana. Do you get that a lot? I use it to help me remember it by saying their name and associating it with something that I won't forget, right? Or I'll just make up like a little jingle with their name. And yes, it's surprising. Yes, it's weird. And yes, it can be really like a first time, but no one else is doing it. Therefore, I am memorable to other people, and it helps me remember names. How do you guys remember names?
Yeah, I know for me, similarly, I could say it like multiple times during the first thing, because from Jim Quick, I learned it's like that first 7 seconds is so crucial.
Yeah.
The best thing I do is literally create like this fantasy scenario of them doing something that like connects to something else. So if it's like Mark, I think of like a check mark on their forehead. So when I see them, I'm like, oh, what was their name? Oh, check mark. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Yeah. Or if it's like Cassandra, then I think of I watch D&D type stuff too sometimes, and there's this like goddess in one of them that's called Cassandra. So I imagine her, and she's just like straight up purple. So it's like this purple person standing next to her, just like giving her a hug. So it's just like, oh, Cassandra. Weird, but it works. It's just like I tried to figure out something that's in my world already to connect to their name, and that makes it easier for me to remember.
Okay, you hit my weakness here. I am terrible with names. So what I do is, first of all, eye contact, so I can at least keep the relationship there. They know that I'm concerned about them. And then I keep a couple of jokes in my back pocket for that. One I use all the time is, I take after the comedian W.C. Fields. I can never remember a name, but I always forget a face. And they laugh at that. Or the other one is, I have a great memory. It's just really short. And they laugh at those things. But I really need to work on that. That's a skill that deserves my time to master, and remembering names. So
humor doesn't definitely.
It took me a long time to get Willie's name down.
George, Fred, Ginny, jumping in the Harry Potter world, I guess.
Yeah.
As we close, we're playing a game. We're gonna play a game.
Okay.
Ready? So imagine yourself that we're standing on an elevator, and a young adult, very early in the stages, comes in. He recognizes us. He's very excited. He's like, he like gives a 20 second pitch as we're like going up in the elevator to our office. The elevator door is open, and you say, "It's great to meet you." And as you walk out, that young gentleman says, how do I bet? What's a good way to phrase this? How do I be a better communicator? And you have between 3 to 5 seconds before those elevator doors close for him to hear some just mic drop wisdom from you onto how to better communicate. So that's the scenario. I'll go first so you two can think about it, because it is just like, man, this got to be good. But don't put too much pressure on it. It's just like, what would you say to that young adult if, as you walk out the elevator, he says, "Hey, how do I become a better communicator?" And then you turn and you say what you say. And for me, I would turn to that young adult and I would say, good communicators don't say more. They say it better. Elevator doors closed. Okay. Ian or John, what would be your before the elevator close moment?
Okay, since we're a book club here, I would quote Stephen Covey. Too often people listen with the intent to respond instead of listening with the intent to understand.
Door closed. John.
Yeah, I'm going to take one out of Ian's book and I'll quote somebody, but I'll use a quote that's long enough so that as the doors are closing, I'll be like, and then I don't finish it, and then they go down, and they never know when I get it. No, I'm just kidding. Man, this is a great scenario, but I would go and always say, I would probably do my best to attribute it to Zig Ziglar, but I would say, you can have anything you want in this world as long as you help other people get what they want first.
Doors closed. And with that, champions, that wraps up this awesome episode that we have of Champion Reads. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcasting platform, as well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where it'll have the links to our podcast, links to our socials, as well as everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, continue to be the champion in your own life, continue to be a better version of yourself, and always remember that communication isn't about what you say. It's about what the other person actually hears. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.